Hey guys, my name is Chad and I'm back with another video because installing macOS on an AMD PC has gotten a whole lot easier since my last video. And one of the best parts is that you no longer need a Mac to do this. You can do it right off any Windows PC or virtual machine. So before you get started, you're going to want to make sure that your computer is compatible with macOS, and most modern AMD configurations are, but just to double check, you should Google the name of your CPU, which in my case is AMD FX 6100, and then you're going to find a website called CPU Boss. You're going to head over there, and once it loads, you can scroll down and make sure your CPU is compatible with the SSE4 instruction set. Now we can go ahead and get started by downloading the Sierra AMD image from AMD OS X, which is by far your best resource when it comes to installing macOS on an AMD PC. So you're going to head over to the website. You're most likely going to have to visit the forum and sign in or create an account. But once you do, you can go ahead and click download, head over to installer images, select Sierra, and go ahead and download the latest version. And it is going to come in a torrent file, so you are going to need a torrent client. I am going to be using uTorrent. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention that you are going to need a flash drive that's at least 16 gigabytes or more. So after you guys download Sierra AMD, you're going to need Transmac, which you can download a free trial from this website. I'll have a link to it down in the description. Okay, so as soon as your pre-compiled Sierra AMD image finishes downloading, you can go ahead and run Transmac as an administrator. When Transmac opens, go ahead and find your USB, right-click it, and select Restore with Disk Image. Select Yes, and navigate to the Sierra AMD image, which in my case is in my Downloads folder. And then just click OK. Once the restore completes, your USB is ready to be booted from, so go ahead and eject it. So before you just plug your USB into any USB port on your AMD computer, make sure you plug it into a USB 3.0 port if you have one. The next step is to now boot into our BIOS setup and make sure that our SATA ports are set to AHCI. Failure to properly configure your SATA ports will result in your drives not showing up in disk utility, so it's really important that you don't skip this step. The other thing you're going to want to do in your BIOS setup is make sure Legacy Boot is enabled, and then go ahead and disable any other Windows specific features. So now that our BIOS is configured, we can go ahead and boot from our USB into the macOS installer. There's one more thing I want to point out, and that is if you're using a newer version of Sierra AMD than the one I am in this video, booting from your USB may look something more like this, and if that's the case, you're just going to have to go into options and enter your boot flags there under boot arguments. I'm going to be booting with verbose mode throughout the whole installation process, which is the -V boot flag, so we know what's going on during boot. And I'll also be booting with the NVIDIA disable boot flag because I'm running an NVIDIA graphics card and we don't yet have the drivers for those. Once you boot into the installer, go ahead and open Disk Utility, and then erase your hard drive. If it fails the first time like it did for me, go ahead and try it a second time and it should work. You can name this drive whatever you like, just remember it because you are going to need it later. Now you can just simply install macOS on the drive you just erased. When the installation completes, you're then going to boot back into the installer with the same exact boot flags. Once you've booted back into the macOS installer, go ahead and head over to Utilities and select Terminal. When the terminal opens, you're going to want to go ahead and navigate to the post-install directory on your flash drive. Then you'll want to run the post-install script. As soon as you run the script, you're going to be prompted to enter the name of the drive that you installed Sierra on. In my case, it's Chad-AMD. When the post-install script completes, go ahead and restart your computer and boot back into Clover from your USB. So this time you're going to use the arrow keys to select the drive you installed Sierra on, and you're going to boot with the same boot flags. It may take a while, but eventually the macOS setup will show up, in which case you can go ahead and finish setting up your Mac. After finishing the macOS setup, it's now time to install a bootloader, so we don't need our USB to boot anymore. And before we get started, I just want to mention that the download link to all these files will be in the description. Now we're going to start by installing the Enoch bootloader. Now once the Enoch bootloader installation completes, you have two options. You can install the Clover Bootloader, or you can just boot from Enoch. I'm going to end up installing Clover because if you saw my older videos, you'd know that nvidia doesn't really work well with Enoch, and that also seems to be the case now. So to be able to boot from Clover, you're going to need a pretty specific configuration file, and if you want to see how it's made, I have a whole other Clover guide video that you can watch. Otherwise, you can just download this one from the description and it should work just fine. So you just head over to your Clover folder, delete the current configuration, and copy over the new one. Alright, so this part only applies to those who have an NVIDIA graphics card. So once you have your bootloader configured, go ahead and run the NVIDIA WebDriver package and then restart your computer. Alright, so this is really about as far as installing macOS Sierra goes. The next step is to get audio and Ethernet working, which will be different for everybody depending on their hardware. And for me, the process is really just installing two packages to get audio and Ethernet working, which is about as easy as it gets. Alright guys, that's about it for this video. If things didn't really work out for you, be sure to leave a comment below or start a thread on AMD OS X. If you are now running macOS on your AMD PC, be sure to like this video and subscribe so that other AMD users in need can find this video easier. With that being said, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys again in a high Sierra video.